This horse that I'm riding today, as you can see, she is somewhat overweight, and I have adjusted her diet program to help with that. I need to work on her weight. I also need to build some muscle. It is a lot harder on a horse when they come to me and I start exercising them when they're overweight than they are when they're underweight. I'm asking her to work, and she's heavy to begin with, which causes extra stress on her joints and her feet, that kind of thing, on top of me asking her to work. But I can't just put her on a diet and let her stand in the stall or turn out. We have to be making some progress. As she loses this excess weight, we need to be building muscle. But what I want to work on with her, she's naturally heavy on her front end, so we need to get her more round. I'm asking her to give her face to the bit. You'll see she kind of pushes with her face. The last couple of times I've worked her, I've spent a lot of time working on getting her face to come in and hold it in for a couple of steps. With her being unfit, it's harder for her to do that. See, she's kind of pushing on the bit just a little bit. It's not that she doesn't like the bit or the bit is causing any pain. It's because the bit is getting her to use her body in a way that's hard. As with most horses, when you're asking them to do something that's hard, they're going to complain a little bit about it. And that's what she's doing. She's a little bit overweight. This work is hard. She's complaining a little bit. The bit has nothing to do with it other than the bit is helping me to put her in the position that she needs to be in to build the muscles that she needs to build. All bits work a little bit different. There's 7 pressure points on a horse's head. I'll go over those in just a minute. And those pressure points, I'll get the horse to do something a little bit different with his body. I get quite a few questions asking what bit should I ride my horse in? Or what is the best bit for my horse? Well, the thing about it is you're going to use a bit that helps your horse with your horse's weaknesses. Right now her weaknesses is that she's heavy on her front end and she needs to carry her body better. So what I'm going to do is use a bit on her that helps her to carry her body better. Now let's stop just a minute and I will tell you the 7 pressure points that a bit can work off of. And it's important to understand what those pressure points are and why you would use each one of those pressure points. Many people are afraid to use bits that operate on certain pressure points. But the reality of it is every pressure point asks your horse to do something a little bit different, and it's important that you use whatever pressure point that is necessary to get your horse to do a certain thing. So let's start with corners of the mouth. That's the one that most ring snaffles work off of. That's the corners of the mouth on the lip. The next is the bars. The bars is the section between the horse's front teeth and the back teeth where the bit sits. You can put pressure there. What the corners of the mouth and the bars do is mostly lateral movement. You can get some vertical off of the bars. You're not going to get much off of the corners of the mouth. Get a little bit of lateral movement. The next one we're going to talk about is the tongue. You can put some pressure on the tongue. Some horses have thicker tongues or thinner tongues. So different bits will put different amounts of pressure on the tongue. And what you need to take in consideration when you're thinking about the bits is the thickness of the tongue and how that lays out with the bars in the mouth. If you have a thick-tongued horse, you might have to put a 3/4 or 1 inch port in that horse's mouth to actually get contact on the bars. If you have a thin-tongued horse, you're going to end up with a lot more bar pressure and less tongue pressure. So those are all things you have to take into account when you're deciding what bridle to put on your horse. So that's the corners of the mouth, the bars, and the tongue. Next, we're going to talk about the roof of the mouth, the palate. The roof of the mouth is one that a lot of people are scared to use. You don't want to jerk on it and snatch on it because you can cause damage. But what pressure on the roof of the mouth does is that helps the horse to elevate in his poll and break at the poll, which in turn gets the shoulders up and helps the horse to carry himself more rounded. So I use palate pressure, which is roof of the mouth, on horses that need to elevate as a more advanced bit. I'll use one like this. This is just a little low port bit. I'll put a picture of it here to get a horse started with that. Next we're going to talk about the nose. If you use a Bozell, a rope side pull, that kind of thing, a hackamore, they're going to work on the nose. The thing about that pressure you need to be aware of, the top of the nose is hard bone, and if you get too low on the nose, you get in soft tissue. So if you adjust that too low, you're going to cut off your horse's air supply. If you adjust it too high, you're not going to have any contact because you're just making your contact on bone. The next thing we're going to talk about is the chin. If you use a leverage bit, you're going to be putting pressure under the chin. That acts as the fulcrum for the leverage of a leverage bit. There's different widths and types of chin straps you can use, but that is going to determine where your leverage point is when you use a leverage bit. The last one we're going to talk about is the pole. Pole's right here, right behind the ears, about where the first vertebrae is. When you engage a leverage bit, the bit rotates and it's going to put pressure up here at the pole. That's the last pressure point. You need to be aware of resistance in any of those pressure points. A horse can be resistant in one and not resistant in another. So if you have a horse that is resistant in any of those pressure points, you need to put whatever bit in that horse's mouth that is necessary to get that resistance, to work that resistance on that pressure point. I see a lot of horses that come in with issues with resistance to the pole. That's one that many people neglect to fix. Resistance in the pole is similar to resistance in pulling. Everybody gets a horse soft laterally, but not many people work on resistance in the pole. That's one of the things I'm working on with this horse. I don't expect her to lower her head, but what I do expect her to do is give her head down and break at the pole when I ask for contact. So I've worked specifically on that with this horse, and let's walk her in a couple circles and see what she does. See how when I walked, her head goes down? As I walk around, I want the horse to relax and bring its chin into its chest. I'm going to give a little squeeze and break at the pole. See how she didn't keep it very long? She hasn't built the strength up to keep that very long. I don't want her to put her head all the way at the ground, but I can't have resistance. I can't have her head come up when I make contact on the bit. You'll see that every once in a while. I'll make contact and her head will come up. Her head coming up when I make contact is the same as if you pull one rein and the horse pulls back against you the other direction. So that's a little bit about bits and how the different pressure points work on a horse and why you need to change bits depending on what you're working on with the horse. I never ride a horse in the same bit more than 3 rides in a row. I don't want the pressure points that I'm using in a specific bit to get dull, so I'll swap to similar bits so I can keep everything about the horse's mouth and head fresh. That way the horse stays fresh all the way through his training progress. If you have any questions about bits or any of that, put it in the comments below. This is KC. I'll be riding her in a couple more videos. This is actually the horse that I worked in the hard to load video that I did a while back. If you saw that video, this is that horse. And she came back for a little bit of a tune-up. Until next time, thank you for watching.